So I love this little display and I can't wait to show you how to make it. So you just want to take one of these little doll houses from Dollar Tree, and I painted the entire thing black. That way I had a nice and clean palette. Next, I took a little bit of brown and some gold acrylic paint and mixed them together to get this beautiful bronzy color. I didn't have a color like it, so I just made my own. And then I just painted all of like the highlighted pieces, the little windows at the top of the roof and like the front, kind of leaving some of the details in black shine through. Next, I go in with some silver acrylic paint and I just go over more of those little details. Next, I just take a very, very tiny brush and I go back in with some black ink Waverly chalk paint, and I just kind of dry brush some more of those little details, like the bigger window at the top and the door. Next, I just take a really thick piece of scrapbook paper and I take my yellow Waverly chalk paint and paint just a little portion of it, and then I very lightly dip my brush into the pumpkin Waverly chalk paint and just very lightly dry brush some of that throughout the yellow, just to kind of give it some dimension. I then kind of eyeballed at the top windows. It's like a triangle, so I was shocked, you guys. The first cut that I made fit perfectly in that little window, so I did just hold that up to the paper and cut a second triangle. Next, I did the exact same thing for the bottom windows, and then to secure those into place, I did just use a little bit of hot glue at the top and the bottom of the inside window. And like I said, I repeated that for all of the windows, and there was 6 total, 2 on each side and 4 in the front. Now, because this was open in the back, and really wherever I'm displaying it, you're not going to see the back, but I did just want to show those who will display this somewhere you can see the back, how to close that up. So I just laid it down on a piece of foam board from Dollar Tree. I traced it out and then cut it with my straight edge razor, and then I attached it to the back with some hot glue and painted it black. Next, I take this round sign from Dollar Tree, I take the sticker off of it as well as the hanger, and then I just lay my house down where I wanted it and glued it down. Now, I was trying to figure out how to make a tree to go in the front yard of this little project. So what I came up with was these glitter picks from Dollar Tree. I left one alone, and then I took another one and just kind of clipped all of the branches off of it. I then glued the branches down in random places to just make this little pick a little bit fuller, and then I spray painted it with black. Now, to make this sidewalk, you just want to kind of draw out where you want your sidewalk to be. You might want it to be straight. I don't really know, but I did mine a little bit curved. So I just kind of drew it out and then took some rocks from Dollar Tree, laid those out as best as I could to where they looked uniform, I guess you can call it. And then I glued those down with some hot glue. Now, to fill in these cracks, once again, I was unsure of how to do it, and I came up with using wood putty. So I just kind of took the wood putty and smashed it in between the rocks, and then just kind of formed it with my fingers up the sides to make a perfect little sidewalk. Next, I take my little tree and I cut the end off of it because this was such a long pick. It did not look right. It was too tall. So I did just cut the end off of that pick. Now, I'm not going to lie, it was kind of tricky. So I just kind of scored it, and there was like this wax around it, you guys. I don't know. It was weird. But there was wax around it. So I just cut through the wax and got down to the metal part. And then I just took my time and cut that away. I then took some Spanish moss and laid it down all over the place, and if you just kind of pull on this and push on it, so I laid each piece down in the spots that I wanted it, and I just kind of played with it, pushed it down to where it got flat, and then glued it down, and I repeated that step all the way around. Now it's time to decorate this baby. Look how cute this is already, you guys. Whoever made this originally was a genius. She did such an amazing job. I guess I don't really know if it was a guy or a girl, but whoever made it did an amazing job, and I knew that I just had to try my hand at one. So I took the little skeleton garlands from Dollar Tree and the little pumpkins that come in the scented pine cones, as well as a little hail of hay. Bale of hay, and I just kind of decorated my piece how I liked it. You can decorate this however you like it, but I did just kind of follow along the theme with the original posters, and then I kind of added my own twist here and there. So I had this little car from Dollar Tree, and I ended up taking the wheels off and taking a hammer and smashing the top of it. And then I went in with my Mod Podge and some cinnamon in random places and just kind of rusted that little car. I then stuck it in the spot I wanted to with some hot glue, and then I took some more of that Spanish moss and kind of just filled it in around the car, because like the original posters project, I did want this car to look like it was kind of old and, you know, growing in the nasty grass or whatever you want to call it. And then to make some cobwebs on my little tree, all I did was take 2 scrap pieces of wood and put some hot glue on the end, and then kind of smashed the 2 pieces together, and I hurried up and pulled it apart and just kind of put some of those glue strings all around the place to make it look, you know, spooky. Next, I took these little pieces of signs from this little "We Were Meant to Be" sign, and I only used 2 of them and cut those in half. Next, I take my tin acrylic paint. I believe that's what it's called. I got it from Hobby Lobby, and it's a galvanized metal, but it's kind of like a darker galvanized metal. So I did just give 3 of those. Well, actually I painted all of them, and we only ended up using 3, but I painted all of them with that acrylic paint, and then I went in with my sterling silver acrylic paint and just kind of randomly dry brushed some of that silver all the way around these little tombstones. Next, I took my white paint pen and just drew a few little spooky sayings. I kind of looked up on Google like what goes on these little faux tombstones, and I kind of just did my own thing. I didn't really see anything that I really liked. So on one of them, I put RIP with like little skull, or not skull and bones, but little bones. Another one I did RIP in a different font with some cobwebs, and then the last one I put "Here Lies" and also put a cobweb or 2. So because I wanted these tombstones to look old and weathered, I did go in with a very tiny brush and some of my Waverly Antique Wax and just kind of randomly put splotches of the antique wax all over the place, once again just to make these look old. Now, to make these stand up really nicely, I took Jenga blocks and I just glued those to the back. That way when we go to glue these down, I have a little bit more to glue to. I then just glued them down in the spots that I liked. I played around with it first before I glued anything down. That way I can make sure that I liked where the placement was. And then I just took some more of those skeleton garland and cut the other one apart and just kind of randomly put things. So I put 2 skulls at the base of the sidewalk, and then I cut up the bones and just randomly place them because I did want this to look kind of like a graveyard, kind of like a spooky house. I don't know. I just thought that they looked really cute, but if you don't like that, you can totally leave that out. Last but not least, I took a stick that actually was in the Spanish moss. I just kind of put that aside and I cut it down to 2 pieces and made a little cross, and then I did the same exact thing with a skewer from Dollar Tree and glued those down with some hot glue. Again, I played around to see the placement before I glued anything, and once I was happy with it, then I did secure it to my project with some hot glue. And then literally, you guys, that was it. This did take me a little bit of time, but you guys, I enjoyed this process so much. This is totally out of my comfort zone. This is actually the first Halloween DIY video I have ever done. So let me know in the comments down below, of course, what you think of these projects and if you guys want to see more Halloween decor from me soon.